Welcome back to Interjections, our first lost recap episode following Inter getting eliminated from the Champions League by Atletico. I'm your host, Andrew, coming to you from a box on the side of the freeway after losing my house on Jay's hot betting tips. We've got Irfan, Sterling, and Jay with me today. Irfan, what's up?
Definitely been better. Luckily, I did not bet my house or mortgage on Jay's betting tips, even though I thought about it and I probably should have. But given the result, looks like I did well by not doing so. But otherwise, yeah, not feeling too great today, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Sterling, welcome back to the pod. Great to have you as always.
Yeah, absolutely. It is great to be back. Obviously, I wish that we were here talking about a progression to the quarterfinals in the Champions League. But, it is what it is. This is football, and these things do happen. However, I'd be lying if I didn't say I've been trying to convince myself that I'm not as upset about it as I actually am. And especially seeing the draw and how everything kind of played out just kind of brought it back to me. Just looking at what our path could have potentially been to maybe another final this year, but that's football, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Jay, you just frustration, man. Come on, your betting tips off to what? 0-2, 1-2 start. We need better from you, man.
Well, in my defense, we were 4 minutes away from my betting tips, taking place. But then Stefan defried and Depay Giroud him nice and good. So, no, but look, I'm so proud of the boys. Just really, leave the tournament with our heads held high. And, it hurts, but yeah, I just couldn't be prouder of the boys for, no, I'm kidding. That was a fucktacular disappointment, but let's get into it.
That was Jay's Miko impersonation. So let's get into the game. Ground rules for the conversation. I don't want to talk about the penalty shootouts until the end of this discussion because I do want to analyze the game separately from the penalty shootouts. From a match perspective, Atletico came out looking for the kill. They were pressing hard early. Our backline was struggling to pass the ball amongst themselves. And it really looked like we had staved them off when we grabbed this great DeMarco team goal. And then to just immediately concede 2-3 minutes later after scoring that goal really threw this entire tie into doubts. If you would have made Atletico chase the game for a longer duration of time, this is a different situation we're looking at. Instead, they immediately score, they immediately gain confidence, and they're out there looking for the equalizer and pressing. So, Sterling, what did you see on the goal? I mean, it was a pretty big defensive breakdown. And just how much do you think that set us back in terms of taking control of the tie?
Yeah, I hate to blame any one player or any one moment for us going out across, two legs. However, if I had to break it down to one moment, it would be the Pavard whiff. Essentially, that Pavard whiff changes the entire tie. Obviously, it was a poor clearance in the first place from devrij. It goes to Koke, who it looked like he may have handballed it, but apparently he did not. We never saw a replay of it, so I'm just going to assume that it was mostly his chest and not his bicep. But then he, plays in a pass that in reality wasn't really that dangerous. I think that even if Pavard would not have gone for it, that Bastoni was also there behind him and he would have cleared it. But Pavard was having a really weird match. I mean, he just looked off of it from the first minute. His passing was a little bit slack. I do think that maybe having Dumfries there versus having Darmian did maybe play a little bit of a role in that because most of his minutes recently have been with Darmian as the wing back as opposed to Dumfries. And I think that maybe did throw him off just a little bit because Dumfries certainly interprets that role much differently than Darmian does because he has those legs and wants to get up the pitch. But yeah, Pavard just looked. I don't know if he was sick or if he just wasn't having a good day. I mean, look, anyone can have a bad day. It's just weird for somebody who we know is a world class player who really hasn't put a foot wrong all day to have such a weird up and down match. It wasn't even that he was just bad the entire time. He was certainly pretty poor in that first half, but he obviously did have some good blocks as well. That Griezmann chance that he blocked probably would have been the second goal there. But I think what Andrew's saying is spot on. When we weathered the storm in the beginning, and then in the 33rd minute, we have some really nice play to take the lead with that DeMarco goal. Really nice build up there between Bastoni, Barella, and DeMarco that led to that beautiful goal there. And then the mentality at that point is like, okay, yeah, we did it, we got you. You guys gave us your best shot. We still weathered the storm, and now we're going to go ahead and see this out. And I really think that if we don't have that whiff there in that moment, and we can get past 5 minutes since the goal is scored, that we probably go into half with a lead. And if we go into half with the lead, man, that second half is so much different because then Atletico has to continue to pour forward, and we can really have more and more opportunities on the break. Because the truth of the matter is that we still had a lot of opportunities on the break in that second half. I'm sure we'll get into the thuram and the Barella chance that we had there, but we still had a lot of chances to put this tie to bed, and we don't even need to talk about the chances we had in the first leg. But Inter had every chance to beat Atletico in this tie, and the disappointing part of this is that we still just found a way to not get it done, and it just seems like that's just our story against the other big clubs. Because if you look, and obviously our Champions League run last year, I'm sorry guys, but it was soft. It was not a run like our 2010 run, for example, where we beat all these large clubs that were the champions of their league. I mean, we beat some Portuguese teams, and we beat Milan. And look, you can only play who's in front of you. But the truth is that that's a pretty weak run to a Champions League final. And now it's still going on almost 15 years since we've knocked out a real powerhouse in this competition. That's just not great. So, yeah, all around just disappointed. Wish we could have done a little bit more there, but yeah, I do think that moment was really the defining moment more so than anything else.
Yeah, and you hit on what I wanted to talk about next, Sterling, and that's the missed chances because, well, I think everyone's going to look at the thuram miss in the second half and say that was it because it was a horrible miss. Could have put, once again, the fixture to bed with what would have been a goal lead. But even just thinking back to all the chances Lautaro and Arnautovic missed in the first leg, it was just over the course of the two matches, there were just too many opportunities we let slip through our fingers. Jay, what's your biggest regret from the two games? Is there a miss in particular that bothers you? Is there a player in particular whose efficiency bothers you?
I guess you'd have to, unfortunately, point the finger at the captain. He's the one who's got the biggest spotlight on him right now, and I think that's for a good reason. Yeah, Arnautovic was also pretty guilty of missing some really big chances in the first leg, but Lautaro in the first leg just shot at Oblak like, 4 or 5 times, and obviously the heat is on Lautaro for the missed penalty, but as you said, it's not just the penalty or even the second leg that defines the tie. It's the full 180 minutes, and in the first leg, he was arguably most guilty of spurning really high quality chances. So, yeah, you'd have to say Lautaro is probably the one who has, unfortunately, not done enough across the two legs for us. Yeah, look, I think thuram's chance was really poor. And to his credit, Lautaro was the one who created that chance from pretty much nothing. But it's how can I say? I find this a lot with our players that they are very good system players, but I always find it somewhat bothersome that we lack someone who's really world class in one thing. We don't have any technicians as such. You think, I mean, yeah, that's part of the squad, the part of the system. We don't play with wingers, so we don't need technical wingers like Vinicius or whatever. But when you look through our squad, Thuram's fast, but not like super fast. He's obviously not a super great finisher either. Same applies for Lautaro. They're kind of like good all-round players that excel in certain areas, but not at a world-class level either. And that's always bothered me somewhat. You look at, not a great example, but you look at Man City, and you've got someone like Kevin De Bruyne or Phil Foden or Haaland or whatever. They have these guys who are, I guess, when you look at their kind of overall profile, obviously elite, but then they have a handful of attributes that they are, top of the class in, and our guys just aren't that, and we don't have that. And like I said, I think at this top level, it really, really makes a difference, as you've seen. Maybe a better finisher than Thuram scores that chance that Lautaro made for him. Maybe someone who's a bit more technically skilled than Barella scores the chance that he had. I'm not saying that was an easy chance. Lautaro, for some idiotic reason, sent him out wide instead of, playing it diagonally to him. But even still, to shoot just straight at the keeper like that was big disappointment. And then across in the first leg, all those chances that we missed, better finishers put them away. So when you get to this level, and I'll come to this in a later point, but this Champions League knockout level it's the point where fine differences like the extra 5% of execution here and there really makes a difference. And it's safe to say that we weren't able to make up for that gap across the two legs.
I mean, at this point, I think we do have to start questioning where Lautaro is mentally whenever he is not playing in Serie A, because he can't seem to play well for the Argentina national team. And every time we're in the Champions League, it seems like we're looking at a different player, especially when it comes time to finish chances. And if you look at his numbers in the Champions League, I mean, they're not good. They're not that of a top striker, not that of a world-class striker, not that of an Inter striker. He's, I believe, got 12 now in 40-something games, and he's well under his expected goals as well. So there's something going on there mentally, and I think we really saw it across these two legs because, if Atletico magically transferred to Serie A, and we were playing them in a league fixture, I really think that he probably has, two goals across these legs, and maybe he even has an assist. I don't know. It just seemed like the final product in general was lacking from him and has been lacking from him in Europe for a long time, and that's a mental issue he's going to have to learn how to overcome.
The example I'm seeing thrown around a lot is Ciro Immobile, where you have this player who's prolific with his club team, can't score with the national team, doesn't play well on perceived big stages. And it might be an unfair comparison because Lautaro feels so young, but he's been in this competition for 4 or 5 straight seasons now, and we're just yet to see him truly have a game-wrecking performance where he leads the line and carries us to victory. Even if you look back on last year's Champions League run, when I think of the marquee goals from it, it was Zeko in the first leg against Milan. It was Lukaku finding us a winner in Portugal. There just weren't any Lautaro marquee moments culminating with him, not scoring in the final. So it's a concern.
Since 2021, he's got 6 goals in 29 Champions League games. That's a 1 in 5 strike rate, which is, yeah, really not good enough. And when you look at the teams that made up those 29 games, you've got Milan, you've got Sociedad, and I can't even remember who else. But either way, it's poor.
The thing that really miffed me during this game and what I was angriest about in the immediate aftermath was the substitution pattern. So last year, Inzaghi got slammed for his substitutions, particularly his game management. And this year, with the team winning so much, I honestly haven't had any complaints about his substitutions. We know he'll sub off someone when they get a yellow card. But beyond that, I thought he's done a better job and he's improved in a manager in that respect. But some old demons surfaced in this Atletico game. He went ultra conservative, and as you start working through his substitutions, it's just I can't wrap my head around what he was thinking. So it all starts off when he makes the double change. He goes ahead and he puts on acerbi for Bastoni. This is something we've talked about a lot on this podcast. I don't understand the point of the substitutes. You are taking off one of the best in his position in Bastoni. You are putting acerbi, who's slow and a little awkward, out wide in a position he's not expected to succeed in. Then, of course, with Augusto out, we didn't have a left wing back available on the bench. So we ultimately got this weird mashup of Bissek coming on, Pavard moving to right wing back at a 5 in the back, and Darmian hopping over to the left. And it didn't work. And when you compare that to what happened with Atletico's substitutes changing the game, it was just, one, it was an indictment on how poor of quality we had coming off the bench. But two, I just really questioned Inzaghi's acumen. Irfan, what did you think of the substitutions?
Yeah, they were pretty poor in general. I think, honestly, guys, like this match came down to I think just a series of individual mistakes, right? And what I think about when I think about the match generally is Sterling talked about it a little bit, but that the devrij clearance was terrible. I mean, I don't understand why that guy can't clear the ball past our box. One of the last times we conceded in the Serie was also because he had a really poor clearance and it bounced right to somebody and then they just shot on goal. So I don't understand why devrij can't clear the ball. The whiff by Pavard was absolutely miserable. I don't understand what he was doing. Like Sterling said, he seemed really off the entire match. Yeah, he had some good plays, but somebody with that quality, with that experience, who's played in the biggest matches that you can imagine, just can't make mistakes like that. And giving up that Griezmann goal was just like a massive sucker punch, and it completely changed everything. It changed everything.
Pavard hasn't been good for a couple games now.
He's been a little off, and I don't know what that is. And it's like he's off in like the most basic kind of ways, like things that you would expect him easily to handle, and he miffs or he like just messes up on something. And it's like it's really frustrating. Why it's almost, it seems like a lack of focus really, and execution than it does anything else, and it's really weird. But and then you go down the line and the thuram miss that we talked about, the Barella miss. I don't know what he was doing with that first touch. Like it wasn't a great ball by Lautaro, but he also just completely I don't know what his first touch took the ball into a completely impossible angle to get a good shot. So you'd expect something better from him as well. And I think ultimately the thing that surprises me the most about the general performance was that this was a Serie A level performance. These guys, I don't think, understood that they're playing in Madrid against Atletico Madrid, and they tried to put forth this like mashup of Serie A level performance as if they were playing some run of the mill crappy Serie A club like Milan or Fiorentina or something, and they weren't. Like they're playing Atletico Madrid in Madrid and in the Champions League, and the margin of error is so low. And yet, they come out with this sort of performance. I was disappointed in the entire team. We talked about Lautaro, and I get it. His performances have not been good. I completely separate the Argentine national team performance, by the way, because the Argentina national team is basically everybody just watching Messi. and their directive solely is to pass to Messi. So I don't blame him for Argentina. But the Champions League, you guys are right. He's been so poor, and I don't understand why. But going to Andrew's point about the subs, I completely agree. There was a moment where we really needed to be able to play our game, stabilize the midfield, and also keep Atletico on their toes a little bit by presenting some kind of an attacking threat. And when they needed a goal, I go back to this. When they needed a goal, they brought on Depay, Correa, and later they brought on Sal. Us, who do we bring in? We bring in acerbi, and then to light a spark in our midfield and attack, we brought in Sanchez and we brought in Frattesi. Just not good enough. We don't have the kind of player we need that puts opposing defenses under threat. And Inzaghi's substitutions, like acerbi should have, if he was even somewhat fit, he should have played from the beginning. And you sub in devrij later. You can't depend on devrij in a match like this. And Bisek, I think he's really good, but playing acerbi at the left center back position and pulling Bastoni was definitely a head scratcher. And putting Klaassen in, like, I'm sorry, I know he has a good penalty track record. You can't put Klaassen in this game. I do not understand what Inzaghi was thinking doing that. And honestly, like after we gave up that goal, to go into essentially fortress mode for 55 minutes and just trying to defend, like that's just it's a bad tactical strategy as well. And I know it created some breakaway chances going the other way, which we should have capitalized on. I guess that was the plan. But you're just playing with fire by sitting back deep like that against the kind of players that Atletico has. And it's just, again, I felt like it was like a Serie level performance from Inzaghi and from the team in the Champions League. I just don't think they understood where they were and what they were doing. It was horribly disappointing on all accounts.
Can someone answer for me why a 24-year-old center back can't play 90 minutes twice in a week? I'm really confused as to why we always seem to rotate Bastoni, yet we can't rotate acerbi, who's well into his 30s. And we also tend to want to play acerbi as a left center back when he is lacking in legs at this age. That move across the season has always puzzled me. And it's also coincided with some of these weird performances. I look back to, in particular, the Juventus match away, where we also played acerbi at that left center back role, and how we just kind of played with the handbrake on during that match. And even when we had the ability to potentially turn the screw after we got the equalizer, we kind of just stayed conservative and kind of sat back and kind of said, hey, we'll just ride it out. The difference is that was a league game, and Juventus was comfortable taking the draw as well, and living to fight another day. This was the Champions League away at Atletico and the Wanda. This is a must-win game, and it doesn't seem like we really kind of approached it that way with that mindset. Our mindset was, hey, we're comfortable with the draw. We can sit deep. We can see this out. That's just a really dangerous way to approach these knockout games, in my opinion. I think that that missing Carlos Augusto in this match honestly threw Inzaghi for a little bit of a loop. It's like he had a glitch or something.
Agreed.
Because I think that Inzaghi has his set rotation of substitutions. He has his set patterns. He knows when he's going to take his wing backs off. It's usually around sometime between the 65th and the 70th minute is when he'll change his wing backs. And it's usually a double change. And he'll just take both off and then he'll replace them. And obviously he was hoping to be able to do that in this match with Darmian and Augusto. However, Augusto not being there, that's, I think, where things started to get a little bit wonky. And the next thing you know, we're doing things in this match, in a must-win match in the Champions League, that we've never done in Serie A. When have we really played Bisek with Pavard as a wing back, acerbi as a left center back, and then Darmian as a left wing back? It makes zero sense.
I think
that's the most frustrating part of it to me, is that we were doing these strange things that we just typically don't do. And even, I'm probably getting ahead a little bit, but even the chance to put on Buchanan in the extra time, and all of a sudden we shy away from that because we just have to stick with our old guys. We have to stick with the people who, Inzaghi trusts the most, who aren't going to blow this. But guess what? It's kind of already been blown. You think we're going to win in penalty kicks? I mean, anyways, I'm going to get ahead of myself, so I'll go ahead and hand things back to Andrew so he can take over.
Yeah, I actually did want to talk about the Buchanan move a little bit because we looked horrible in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of the match. And of course, you all know the record. We talk about it every week. We do not concede goals in the last 15 minutes of a match. And when we conceded the Depay goal, everything looked horrible. The shape of the team was broken. I wanted to bring on Buchanan to try and fix things. Particularly, I wanted to take off Pavard, move Bisek to his natural right center back role, and just try and regain the shape of the team. And Buchanan was waiting on the sidelines. It looked like he was about to come in the game, and then Inzaghi just changed his mind and sent him back, and we didn't make any substitutes. And I just don't understand the logic. This is the guy who put on Bellanova in a Champions League final when we needed a goal. And for whatever reason, we just refuse to play this guy. If he is so bad that we cannot trust him in moments when we literally do not have any other wingbacks available to us, we made a bad signing. We should have just purchased Bellanova, who just got called up by the Italy national team. Like there was a problem here because I agree completely. The Augusto injury broke Inzaghi, and it really threw his typical plans out the windows. But you need to be able to trust the players you have, and he should have maintained the shape of the team and put on Buchanan with fresh legs, who maybe could have caught Atletico on the counter, rather than basically relying on Bisek forward runs during the entire extra half.
He lost the plot. He got too conservative. Again, I think he thought he was playing some mid-level Serie team. The decisions he made down the stretch did not reflect to me the urgency or the understanding that you are playing. Atletico, whatever they might be going through in the league, they have the pedigree in the Champions League. They're perennial, Champions League performers. Like you cannot put the kind of team, the kind of rotation, the kind of strategy that you had in this match out there and expect to get a good result. Like the sense of urgency was just not there. And the substitutions, like we talked about, were head scratching. Again, I don't understand, like you said, why they didn't put Buchanan in when you needed something. You needed some sort of desperate threat to keep Atletico pinned back a little bit. The last 20 minutes, we were under complete assault consistently. They almost won the match. They hit the inside of the post on one shot, and then they also missed a wide open net, which ended up with Simeone on the floor, which is hilarious. But like they missed a wide open net which would have ended the match, and the whole time I'm thinking, what's going on? And again, I'm not blaming the squad or the kind of depth that we have. I mean, it's been good enough so far, and I'm not completely criticizing Inzaghi either, but it was just a mix of a bunch of things that happened, which was kind of the worst outcome that could have happened. And when it comes to Buchanan, again, like you're right, like he should have been on the pitch. I don't understand for 1 second why Klaassen was on the pitch. I don't understand why he put Mkhitaryan on the pitch for as long as he did when he was playing so poorly. You could just tell he was so tired. He did not play well at all. The midfield was getting completely underrun. And again, all, jokes aside, I don't understand why he didn't bring Aslani on in this game. He could have put Aslani in a more forward position along with Hakan. And rather than Klaassen, I mean, you're really going to put Klaassen into this match? The guy who's played 15 minutes total, and then you're going to expect him to take a penalty just because his career penalty statistics aren't horrible? The whole thing just did not make any sense. It was just like, someone trying to throw together like some long-term project the night before it's due. That was the kind of level of performance that I thought from the manager and from the players. It's inexcusable.
Jay, what did you think of the extra half, extra time, where I think you can argue we outplayed Atletico in the second half in the extra period, but it wasn't by much. We maybe had a few better chances. I believe the Barella miss came in extra time before he got subbed off, if my memory's right. Or I'm losing my timing a little bit, but regardless, we probably had the better of the chances in the extra half. Like I said, a lot of B-sec forward runs, but it didn't. Given we know how bad we are at penalties, it really didn't feel like we tried hard enough in that situation to get a winner. What did you think?
I can't honestly remember. I That game was just such a, I don't know. It was it, it was a game that made you want to forget the game, and therefore I don't remember large pockets of the game, or like what moments happened when. I remember the moments, but I couldn't tell you exactly when they happened. I think Lautaro had a good chance from a corner, which he headed like just wide of the post. I can't remember exactly when that was, but I feel like that was in extra time. So I can't really speak to the statement that we were better in the second half or whatever. I think. I mean, look, with regards to the Bastoni Acerbi substitution, we debate about that and we complain about it, but I think the answer is actually extremely simple. Inzaghi just sees Acerbi as a better defender and thinks that putting Acerbi there makes us more defensively secure. So if you have like a more defensively capable wing back, like we know Augusto is much better defensively than DiMarco, then that left flank is more protected, and you can kind of get away with having a more offensive left-sided centre back like Bastoni. If Bastoni is not playing, then and we don't have Augusto either, then I guess no, sorry. If Bastoni is playing and DiMarco's out there on the left and DiMarco's starting to fade, then I guess Inzaghi just feels like that left side needs some bolstering, and that's why he puts on Acerbi. Don't get me wrong, I do not support it in any way whatsoever, but to be as want to try and understand it the best I can, that's the only answer I have. Now, obviously, it comes with an enormous downside that we've all spoken on, that we lose so much of a threat down the left, and especially with Darmian, man. Like I can't blame the guy because we know what Darmian is as a player, but there were times in the latter, I don't know. Like I said, I can't remember when exactly, but I feel like in the last 30 minutes of the game, we'll say last 45 minutes of the game, including extra time, there were times where we had a lot of space down the left, and Darmian's not capable of crossing it in with his left. So what does he do? He stops dead, he cuts to his right, and then just passes it backwards. And that kind of thing was, ironically, like one of the most infuriating moments of the tie for me. And the irony is that it's such an innocuous thing when you think about it. It's not as damaging as like the Lautaro misses in the first leg, or Thuram's miss in the second leg. But something about just seeing Darmian there in acres of space and then choosing to stop and pass it backwards on his right foot was just, like I said, it was immensely triggering for me. And it summed up this mire that we found ourselves in at that point. As you guys have alluded to, Buchanan was about to come on, then he changed his mind. If nothing else, Buchanan has some speed that we could have exploited on the break. Buchanan's also, I mean, we've seen him play on the left. I think he's only ever played on the left so far at Inter, but whenever he's in the couple of minutes that he's got there, he at least tries to be industrious. He squares up to his marker and tries to take the defender on. So there's something there, no matter how good or bad it might be. With Darmian, there's nothing there. There's absolutely no threat there. So it was just a black hole of attacking football, and it spoke to, like I said, the confusion that Inzaghi found himself in. As Sterling mentioned, Augusto was a massive loss here because had he been fit, we obviously would have just subbed off DiMarco for Augusto and everything would have been fine. But yeah, without Augusto, having to switch Darmian and then and then try to put on Buchanan only to change your mind. I think that was a really indicative moment. I think Inzaghi was a bit out of his depth, to be completely honest. I was going to make this point later, but I guess I'll just say while I'm at it, like, you guys know that I'm no. Look, the optimists would not claim me as one of them, to put it mildly. But if I'm to force myself to be as optimistic as I can, what I'll say is this: we've seen this season in the league as proof that Inzaghi has learnt from last season's disgraceful league campaign where we lost like 13 games or something. Uh, that is objective proof that this man is capable of learning and that he's still developing as a football coach. And that is the tiny silver lining that I can give to Inzaghi's performance and his decisions in this match, which were, as we've all mentioned, pretty puzzling and, like I said, indicative that he was a bit out of his depth. I know I'm getting far away from your question, but I also just wanted to say that I think this match was very much a wake up call to people that have been, talking us up so much recently. There's, I mean, if you think of like the Champions League final against a elite team, maybe the best team in the world, Man City, think of that as like, I don't know, what do you Americans call it, the SATs or something, Um, your year 12 in Australia, we call it the HSC, but, your final test in high school, and that'll determine whether whether you work at McDonald's or whether you go to university and study medicine or whatever. But we somehow punched above our weight and overachieved in the SAT, in the HSC, as like a year 8 student. And the teachers were like, hang on a minute, this guy is actually really good. Let's give him a year 10 test and see how he does. And we just dismally failed it. That to me indicates that, some of this is out of our choice because we can't pick who we play against. But the path forward from here is pretty simple, in my opinion. And it's just a case of settle down. Let's go back. We're only, a grade 8 student, so to speak, as far as elite European football goes. As Sterling said, the run to the final last year was extremely fortuitous. So next season, next year, let's ace the grade 8 exam. The year after that, let's ace the year 9 exam. The year after that, the year 10 exam, and so on and so forth, until we're regularly comfortable taking practice tests at like the SATs and the HSC, because there was a clear mentality and, like I said, execution kind of difference in this tie, and that shows. Like, Depay is, I mean, who here or who among the Inter fans would say they would take Depay over Lautaro? Probably there's not an Inter fan in the world who would say that, right? But look at the difference Depay made today compared to the difference Lautaro made over 180 minutes. And Depay, if nothing else, is very technical. And apparently, even though he might not have the consistency or whatever to keep it up week in, week out, he still has that big game temperament where he can score. He can, he has the technique to roll a defender in the 87th minute and bury it into the bottom corner at full power, whereas Lautaro is meekly shooting straight at the keeper 7 times in a row in the first leg and then skies his penalty. These small details were the real killer across the 2 legs, unfortunately for us, and proof that we're lacking so much in that area.
One thing I will say, and maybe this is me doing my best Miko impression, but part of the difference, I think, between a Memphis and between a Lautaro is the fact that Memphis is 30 years old, and he has a little bit more experience. He is fully in his prime, and
Successful
he came
rapper
on
as
and
well.
played. and he's a successful rapper as well. I don't know if you guys saw that comment that he made after the match that he told Ye that he chose the wrong team to support, and that he should come support Atletico Madrid instead. Which
Oh
I'm
no.
sure, I think he did
Oh
say that.
no.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find that and post it on the forum. But no, I mean, here's kind of a positive spin on things a little bit. Our best players are still not fully in their prime yet. When you look at guys like Bastoni, Barella, Lautaro, Thuram, all of those guys are 26. I believe actually maybe Barella just turned 27. But all those guys are just really entering their prime years. I think your prime years as a footballer are really, for most positions, somewhere between 28 and 32. Um, and so, we have a core here that should continue to compete at a very high level, assuming that, we don't blow everything up and continue to have to sell big players off. If we can keep our most important players and we can just add pieces around them, if we can add the, B-Sex of this world, some more veteran signings here or there, like your Acherbis or your Darmians, and then every once in a while, maybe you get a surprise like a Pavard. If you can do that for, a couple more transfer windows, all of a sudden you look up and you have guys like, Lautaro, Barella, who are 28, 29, and you have continued to build in Inzaghi's vision. At that point, I think you're probably going to get another chance at one of these things. Now, with that being said, this was a massive chance, guys. I do want to make that very clear. I think that we had a really good chance of doing some damage in the Champions League this year if we were able to get past this Atletico Madrid tie, not just because of the way that the draw worked out, but just because if you look around Europe right now, this is kind of a soft year in terms of the competition at the top end. I think that you will see probably a better City next year because they always have money. They're going to reload. They're going to go out. They're going to buy more players to cover up some of those weaknesses. Next year, Real Madrid is going to have Mbappe, which is going to be a whole different monster. You're basically, taking all the danger from PSG and putting it on a already very talented Real Madrid side that obviously has that European pedigree at a very high level as well. And Bayern can't be worse than they are right now. So, this was a really good year for us to potentially make a run and maybe steal one. Obviously, it didn't happen. It is what it is. But my point is, we don't need to panic. As long as financially we are not forced to sell off our big stars, we can keep these guys until they are in their 30s, and then will hopefully see them get over that mental hurdle and start to play like some grown men.
All right, let's talk about the penalty shootouts. Every Inter fan who is even somewhat aware of what's going on with this team, and especially listeners of Interjections, knew they had to be worried going to this penalty shootouts. We do not have a team of good penalty takers. This is a team who seriously cannot find someone just to replace Hakan when he's out because he's substitute or injuries. So personally, when it's extra time and I'm looking at who's on the pitch, I already can tell you who's going to take the penalties, and you can already guess how it's going to go because statistically, our best penalty takers are Hakan, Arnautovic, Thuram, DeMarco, and Barella. And the only one of those players who was on the pitch in extra time was Hakan. So you start looking at, okay, who else are we going to send up there? We're sending Lautaro up. We're going to send Alexis up. And then as soon as Klaassen got subbed on, you just had a feeling he was going to be a penalty guy. Alexis, Lautaro, and Klaassen have career penalty conversion rates of approximately 58% for Sanchez, 61% for Lautaro, and 43% for Davy Klaassen. Now, why do these players keep getting penalty chances? There's a combination of factors. You need players willing to take penalties. You'll often hear about players shying away from the responsibility. during key moments, and someone like Klaassen maybe just has the unrelenting optimism enough to say, I'll do it, I'll take it. So, no real surprise we lost the penalty shootout. We can break down the misses if you guys want. I thought Klaassen probably had the quote unquote best miss. Like, it was not a great penalty by any means, but Lautaro's penalty was a joke, and Sanchez's penalty wasn't much better. No one can be surprised we lost this penalty shootout, and that's why I wish we would have gone harder for the match in extra time, knowing how bad of a track record we have. Irfan, do you have any problems with who we sent out for the penalties, or was this pretty much what you were expecting from a taker perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of problems. My biggest problem is I wish we could just send Hakan out there 5 times, because that was really the only way we would have had a shot to win. Um, Sanchez, it's inexcusable. He's so experienced. He's so technically gifted. He's a forward. For him to have the penalty record that he has, and for him to perform in this penalty shootout the way he did, it's honestly, it's so frustrating. It's unbelievable. Lautaro, I knew was going to be a toss up. It was like flipping a coin whether or not he was going to make it or not. And I was surprised he skied it, though. I mean, that usually doesn't happen. I mean, I think he misses because he is too tame and shoots too close to the middle, or at a bad height, and not strong enough. So I kind of anticipated that he would struggle. Klaassen, again, I don't understand why he was in the match at all. And then if you're going to put him in there to take a penalty, then you're kind of gambling your entire decision making for putting him out there at all on that penalty. So he better knock that in. On the positive side, I will say Acerbi is such a boss. What a great penalty by Acerbi, for a center back who is not offensively gifted at all. The guy's got nerves of steel. He just rolled in just with so much swagger and just pounded the ball. It was awesome. It's great to see that. And obviously Hakan delivers because he always does on penalties. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a team that's designed to make penalties. I mean, if you ask me who could have maybe taken a penalty, I don't know. DeMarco's missed a bunch for us too. Aslani is probably not, very experienced in taking penalties. Mkhitaryan's probably pretty bad at it. Barella, I don't particularly trust. Thuram, I don't particularly I mean, we just don't have, I think, the kind of players who are probably pretty good at it. So I don't know, as an alternative, who he should have put out there. And maybe Frattesi could have done a better job taking a penalty. I mean, he has a pretty good knack for goal. I don't know. But yeah, it was frustrating. And like you, I knew that if this goes to penalties, we're going to 100% lose. There was no chance. Because Oblak's also good. We got to remember that. I mean, he's a great goalkeeper. And, in penalties, I think he's pretty good too. So it was stacked against us at that point. And we should have gotten for the win. It should have never gotten to penalties. And once it gets to penalties, even if you have a team full of great penalty shooters, it's still just kind of a, crapshoot on what ends up happening.
The issue with getting, upset with who we had take the 5 penalties is that you look at who's left to take penalties, and there's really not anybody there who is screaming at you like, "Hey, it's obvious that guy should have been in the 5." I mean, maybe you could make a push for Pavard, but I mean, Pavard is a center back. He had a shaky game. I've never seen him take any clutch penalties that I can remember, and I'm not sure mentally that that's where he wanted to be in the moment. So it may be Frattesi, but beyond that, I mean, you look at this team, and the real issue is just that we're just not a great team for penalties, and that kind of is what it is. I don't think you should necessarily go to build a team with the thought process that one day you're going to be in a penalty shootout and you're going to need 5 of these guys to take a kick. I don't think that that's how recruitment should work. But, for whatever reason, the way that this team has been constructed, we have a lot of poor penalty takers in it. And unfortunately, it starts with our captain. I mean, that final penalty is honestly embarrassing. And I know he looked down at the ground in a plea to make it seem like maybe there was something wrong with the turf, but I don't know, 9 other guys took a
There
kick.
was a slight bobble. I did watch like a super slow motion zoomed in uh, replay. What actually happened was when he put his left foot down, like his standing foot, the impact of his standing foot caused the ball to actually bounce up. And I'm thinking, like, what kind of fucking grass is this? But yeah, the ball did actually bounce like a tiny bit when he put his left foot down. Yeah, but even still, like his body motion, like the way his foot followed through, all that was just wrong. It's just done in a way that elevates the ball and puts so much height on it. And when you're doing that, unless you're like a specialist like Hakan, you shouldn't be doing that unless you're a specialist like Hakan. So it was a bit of a recipe for disaster. But
Sure.
look,
Well, no, fair enough. If there was a bobble there, I did not see that, and I never saw a replay of it. But if there was a bobble there, then that does certainly change my outlook on things slightly.
by
However,
like 1%,
but
I forgive him
yeah,
1% for that. But no, I mean the fact that we're sitting here like going, maybe Pavard, maybe Klaassen, or maybe Mkhitaryan, it's such a dumb thing, and it's all because our captain, our striker, our lead, our line leading forward can't be trusted to score penalties. It's such a it's it's a farcical situation, is what it is. Like no other team sits there going through no other fan group sits there going through their roster going, oh, who should take penalties if X isn't on the pitch. It's And the worst part is no real cure for it, because the guys aren't going to be like, Inzaghi's not going to be like, everyone report to Suning training ground at 7 a.m. tomorrow for penalty kick training. It's just not how it goes. So, yeah, frustrating. And
so I guess the question now is do you continue to have Lautaro take penalties in the future, or do you just basically say, hey, man, this isn't for you, and we need to go in a different direction on penalties. I mean, it's a weird thing with strikers because there's a number of strikers historically who have struggled with this, and you would think, hey, this is what you do. You're the goal scorer. You should be able to step up from 12 yards and put it in the back of the net consistently. But even Messi, as great as he is, one of the greatest players of all time, his penalty record's not great. He's missed a ton of penalties throughout his career. It's just a weird thing sometimes with strikers where they're better in game. Sometimes they're better when they don't have time to think, versus when they have time and all of a sudden, it's like mental overload and they misfunction. So I don't know if we continue. I have a feeling we will continue to have him be a penalty taker for us. I think having him in second at this point even seems laughable for us. Even if Hakan is not taking a penalty in game, if he's out, I don't want Lautaro taking the penalty, just to be honest. I prefer Arnautovic if he's on. I prefer DeMarco if he's on. There's a couple different players I prefer before I would see Lautaro take another big, crucial penalty for us, even in Serie at this point. The hard part, though, is that if you take it away from him, does that crush him even more mentally? And then do you have that start to show up in other parts of his game? So it's a tough situation. It's kind of a catch-22.
It's already been taken away from him because he isn't our regular penalty taker. Hakan is, but I get your point. And I would actually say, I would actually say give him the penalty kicks if Hakan is off the pitch. And the reason for that is I feel like I'm some, I don't know, ironic that I'm one of the guys on here that doesn't have kids, including Miko, but I feel like I'm a dad scolding a child who won't finish his fucking broccoli or something. No, you sit the fuck down and you finish your meal before you can have your ice cream, you little shit. That's where I am with Lautaro. So I say give him the fucking penalty kick and make him score them. And if he doesn't score them, I hope the regret keeps him up at night.
Well, didn't we give it to Sanchez last time, and Lautaro was even on the pitch in Serie A?
Yeah.
I forgot what match it was, but we took it away from him, and we didn't let him take the penalty. We let Sanchez take it when Lautaro was on the pitch, but Hakan wasn't. So
And I'm embarrassed enough to admit that when Sanchez stepped up as a second penalty taker, I'm like, all right, this guy just put together an actual solid penalty less than 5 days ago. Maybe, just maybe, he's going to put some good spin on this ball, put it into the corner. And instead, he puts together an absolutely atrocious attempt that I literally could have run out there, which was halfway between the middle of the net and the post, straight along the grounds. That's truly any goalkeeper in the world could have saved. It reminded me of when Osmanen missed the penalty against Juventus and Szczesny saved it. And afterwards, Allegri was in the media just like, it's a bad penalty. Szczesny should have done better, like to push it wide. That's how poor of a penalty it was. So, yeah, just not surprised we lost on penalties. That's the end of the day. And Sterling, you made the good point of you can't reconstrue the construction of the team just because we have a team of bad penalty takers. Like in club football, there's like one match a year where you end up going to penalties. But with talks that we want to sign another forward, or with talks that, you know, we're going to make one or two signings this summer, I think it would be smart to prioritize someone who's willing to be a deputy on these spot kicks, because we need a plan B in the off chance that Hakan's not available, whether it be to injury or whatever else. I was looking at Zielinski's penalty record, and it's actually pretty good. He's scored 5 out of 6 penalties in his career for Napoli and Udinese. So maybe that's an option for us.
How about Taremi?
So okay, so I was watching Arsenal eliminate Porto on penalties, getting excited for Jay's dream of us playing Arsenal, and Porto only used 4 takers. They were eliminated before their 5th taker came up, and Taremi did not get a penalty. And my initial thought was, yeah, this guy blows up penalties too. Perfect. But if you actually check his stats, they're actually pretty good. I think they were saving him to be their 5th penalty taker, and it was one of those like Ronaldo at Euro 2020 or 2012 rather, where you like save your best penalty taker last to try to get them the glory, and it backfires wonderfully.
Lautaro was the 4th taker for us, wasn't he?
Lautaro was our 5th.
Oh, he was the 5th. Oh, yeah.
And I actually give you,
even if he scores,
Jay.
you know, Atletico could have won that, right?
Yeah.
It was over when Klaassen missed. Jay, I give you a lot of credit. A couple episodes ago, when we were talking about Lautaro's latest miss, you called out acerbi as a possibility of like just a wily center back who can step up and take a penalty. So good call on that one.
And Italians will be Italians, right? I mean, that's Italian center backs. That's it.
It's exactly the same penalty that I can't remember whether it was Euro 2020 or some tournament before then. Might have been even the World Cup 2006 or something. But I just remember Bonucci, Chiellini, not Materazzi, just these Italian centre backs just going up and putting it high, just blasting it. I've even seen Samuel do that in like some preseason games. So like, you know, ironically, that's what led to Roma losing the Europa League final. But yeah, I'm always for centre backs to take penalties. I just find it funny when they just, you know, lumber up to the spot and just put it through the back of the net at 100 k's per hour.
By the way, Taremi has a 86.27 career conversion rate on penalties.
Oof.
So maybe it goes away.
Considering he's not going to be able to score during live action for us, perhaps this will be his use for the team.
Yeah, he's taken 51 penalty kicks in his career, and he's only missed 7. So it's not a 5 out of 6.
There's your guy, Andrew. That's the guy. That's our reinforcement. That's going to be a deputy for spot kicks.
All right, I'm reversing course. I no longer hate the Taremi sighting. He's a must sign. He's going to be a critical player for the team. And
now we can go get Xerxes, and we don't have to worry about him not being great at penalties. I don't know what his penalty record is, but we can just go get an actual good player instead of worrying about a deputy for penalties.
Why do you need Xerxes when you can just renew Alexis?
Why get Xerxes when Lasagna is available, and maybe Quagliarella? So
I ended up kind of going on a long spiel and giving my big takeaways from the game, but I wanted to kind of ask you guys, like, other than the obvious disappointments about the game and the elimination in general, are there any? Does this elimination change anything for you in the big picture, in the scheme of things? Does it make you revise any thoughts or beliefs that you had about the squad? Again, like last week, and Sterling, you mentioned it as well today. Just like last week, Andrew was saying, oh, it's a down year for Bayern and Barcelona and stuff, and we have a chance to go far. And I didn't say anything at the time. I was thinking to myself, to be honest, I don't. Even if these clubs have a down year, I don't think that kind of reduces the gap enough for us to be as confident as we are. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of attention on us outside of Italy recently. Like, you go on YouTube and you see these random, I don't know, football YouTubers, like the Athletic among one of them being like, you know, Inzaghi is redefining attacking football and Inter are amazing this year and all this fucking shit, you know what I mean? And then um, some tactical breakdown of our play, and it's, I don't watch these videos, but I thought to myself, oh, it's nice to see us, getting some attention for the crazy season that we're having, Um, but I wondered, are we being a bit overrated in some ways? And like I said, my big takeaway from this was that it was a reminder that, it's a reminder that even Inzaghi is learning, and we've seen, thankfully, the positive results of his learning in the Serie but in the Champions League, he is not as experienced, and so he needs apparently more learning. Um, but the takeaway was that, yeah, we're not quite ready to compete with the elite clubs on the elite stage year in, year out. And I feel that the Man City result kind of, gave us, or gave some people, the impression that we were, I guess, just better than we are, especially in Europe. But yeah, I wanted to get
Yeah.
some of you guys' takeaways.
Yeah, I think that's a little harsh, Jay. I mean, and my concern after this match was exactly that. That the takeaway from a lot of people would be that, hey, we're not as good as we think we are and we claim we are. And the only way I could kind of counter that very quickly is that if you had started this match with the acerbi instead of devrij, I don't think we would have lost this match. And I think if you played this match 9 times out of 10, Inter would have won the match. Look, the Champions League is like it's a cruel mistress, right? I mean, a one ball bouncing the wrong way, one bad round of 16 or knockout stage draw, one penalty that you probably shouldn't have conceded that ends up conceding. Like, the margins are so thin in the Champions League, right? I mean, I agree with you in the sense that we haven't proven with Inzaghi and with this squad that we have the kind of Champions League pedigree where advancing out of the group stage is like expected, and then making a run to the quarter or the semis is kind of perfunctory. Like, I don't think that we're at that level yet on the international stage. I agree with you there. But I think this team is incredibly solid, and it is really good. And I think Inzaghi, like you said, is learning. And I think he was kind of the victim of some of his worst characteristics in this last match. And I think the squad was a victim of some of the worst characteristics in this match. So I don't take too much away, I think, from the loss that we had, because I think it was kind of a freak kind of incident. But I will say that the squad generally is built really well. I do think we need a little bit of depth. And I think some of the things that we've been pointing out on this podcast for a while are true. I don't think we have a really good kind of tricky, fast, offensive spark off the bench. Like, we don't have anyone who can do that. We've talked a lot about on this podcast about our difficulty with penalties and how our forwards are just really inefficient. And as much as, we've been very harsh on Lautaro, and rightfully so, he deserves it. He is the one who had the assist in this match to free up or helped contribute to free up, the goal. And then on top of that, he also almost played in Barella, and he put forth a good effort in a lot of other areas. Now, again, he's a forward. We expect him to score.
Barella assisted DeMarco for
Oh,
the
sorry,
goal,
yeah,
not
Barella.
Lautaro.
But
Yeah.
Lautaro played in Barella, I think, so he had a good part into the goal. So one of the things that I think we do also need to acknowledge is that Lautaro is kind of in a lot of ways a complete forward. If there's anything he needs to work on is like his actual purpose of being a forward, which is to score goals. And in Serie he has no problem doing that. But in Champions League, like we said, he needs to get better. But again, I think the team is good. I think Inzaghi's a great manager. I don't think we could get all worked up about that. He's definitely not a finished product. He's learning. Like you said, he's definitely figured out how to make the league work, considering how bad we were last year. But I think he just got a little caught off guard on this match with the substitutions and with the expectation that the team would kind of deliver the kind of performance you would expect against a Serie A club. I mean, this isn't the Serie A club. This is Atletico Madrid in Madrid, and the margins are way too tight for you to be complacent in any capacity. And I think that's what we were guilty of there. But one thing is true: like the margins are very thin. I mean, you were one player, one injury, one mistake away from getting bounced, and some of that is just the nature of the Champions League. But the other part of it is we've been very lucky this year in Serie A with the lack of injuries, and so I think that we've benefited in that sense. And the squad is just not deep enough, I think, to overcome some of our worst habits when it comes to certain players and when it comes to Inzaghi.
Yeah, I don't really think that this was like some type of a humbling experience going out to Atletico. In a way, it probably would have been easier if we were truly humbled, if we were just, not at the level and, we just got outplayed. Even just at the Wanda, if we were just, completely beaten to a pulp. But I don't really think that if you really watch the match, I don't think that that's what happens. Obviously, we take the lead, and I truly do think that we're one Pavard whiff away from probably seeing out that game completely differently. And then we obviously have a very different take, and this is a very different conversation today. I do think this team was good enough to make serious damage in the Champions League this year, and it's just unfortunate that we went out the way that we did, and that I think that's really where the main frustration comes from, is from the fact that looking at this team over the two legs against Atletico Madrid, we weren't inferior. And I don't think that we were going to be inferior against a lot of teams that we would have come up against. And that's really where this kind of becomes so painful for us. But no, I don't. It doesn't really change my outlook on Inter and where we are as a team. What will change my outlook is if we start to go on a slide in Serie A, because that's going to tell me that mentally we still have a lot of those demons from prior Inzaghi seasons, and they haven't really gone away. I know
that's a perfect segue to Jay's hot betting tips, but just a teaser.
Yeah, so historically with Inzaghi, when this team has lost a big match, we tend to compound our issues, and we start to go on these slides where all of a sudden we'll have like, oh well, Inter's only got 10 points in the last 10 games. What happened? That type of stuff has happened to us before in prior seasons. This is going to be a good test of our maturity, because I know that the boys are obviously disappointed, and rightfully so. They should be. But we have a really big game against Napoli tomorrow. And so I would like to see us rebound. And look, there's no saying that we're going to beat Napoli, who is still a decent team, even if we do beat Atletico, especially if it's over 120 minutes. But you guys know what I mean. You're going to want to see the mentality be right tomorrow. You're going to want to see that we're still trying to play our football. We are at home. We are the favorite still. We should be able to get a result. And if we don't do that, and if it seems like we're in the scenario where all of a sudden we're looking a little soft mentally, and then we go to the next match and we drop points again, then that's when I'm going to start to be concerned, because that's the only thing I would say from the Atletico second leg that I was a little bit concerned about, is that it seemed like mentally we were rocked by that Griezmann goal. I mean, it did come at the perfect time for a real sucker punch to kind of swing momentum, but that's the only thing I would say is that, mentally, maybe this team isn't as far along as I thought they were, but I think that they have to prove that that's not the case. So this run in is going to be very telling for me.
The only point I'll add to you all is that I was just very underwhelmed with the bench in both these fixtures. And it just speaks to me that we need to add some quality to the squad. Last summer was the complete overhaul of the team. We were changing out integral parts for new starters like Pavar and Thuram. This summer, there needs to be some tweaking to just add some life, add some spark off the bench, because none of the 5 substitutes we brought on had a net positive impact on the game, or maybe aside from Bissac. Everyone we brought on did not stem the tide. They did not create a slew of chances for us. It was a whole lot of nothing. So we need to go out and we need to sign a couple of impact players this summer. And I'm talking beyond Taremi and Zielinski. We need to get a good game-changing midfielder and a good actual difference maker in attack. And will we have the money for it? I'm guessing no, but that's my big takeaway is there just wasn't enough tools at Inzaghi's disposal to properly have an impact on the match. We fired a lot of blanks. But let's talk about Napoli, because somehow, some way, there is a Serie match we have to get to. And ironically, against another team who got bounced from the Champions League this week, with Napoli going out to Barcelona. We've talked a good amount about how poor this Napoli side is. They don't let the win over Juve a few weeks back fool you. This is a team that is not particularly good. They've had a lot of bad results. They just drew Torino last week, in fact. They're on to their 3rd manager of the season. I honestly don't even know who this manager is. He was the former national team manager of Slovakia, I think, before.
He still is.
Is he still? Yeah. So Slovakian national team manager, they tapped to come in and hold the fort down while they were, looking to move on from Mazzari. So latest news is that Osimhen might not play this week. Apparently he's curing an injury, and that's a concern for them. From our perspective, I'm not aware of anyone injured other than Augusto, who's going to miss this game, which means we get to see how Inzaghi handles the left wing back substitutions again. Appears to be a bit of a sticking point for us. So I guess, Sterling, what would you do? I guess knowing that DeMarco probably is only going to play 60 minutes, maybe 70 minutes in this match. Like, how do you approach balancing the wing backs when you basically have, assuming Buchanan is unplayable for whatever reason, you basically have 3 wing backs for 4 needed spots?
Okay, well, I was going to say you play Buchanan because
I want to start Buchanan.
Well, yeah, I don't know about starting him. Maybe I would, but it's certainly not going to happen. I'm looking at the predicted lineup right now, and it is
you would.
Darwin on the right.
40-year-old Italian manager would not.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I'm fine with Buchanan not starting this match. I'm really okay with it. It's just I wish that we would use him as part of our true rotation, especially because that's why we bought him. The whole thought process of bringing him in now was that we had this long-term injury to Quadrado, and so we were going to be a wing-back light. And now, as soon as one wing-back now, Augusto goes down on the left side. Last time I checked, Buchanan has only played for us on the left side. Why can't he play there? I mean, if DeMarco is going to come off at 60 minutes, why not give Buchanan 30 minutes to show that he deserves to be an Inter player? Again, this is not a 21-year-old. This is a 25-year-old. He has played professionally for quite a while. You bought him because you think he's talented. I understand that he doesn't speak perfect Italian, but football is a language in itself. I'm sure that he can figure it out with playing time and with minutes. I understand that a match against Napoli is probably not the ideal time to start embedding him, but now is the time because we have a 15, 16-point lead in Serie and we have an injury there. So I think that you should be playing him in that position and getting him into the rotation. If DeMarco can't play, or excuse me, if Buchanan can't play, and you're saying you have to rotate in that position, that's when it starts to become really difficult. And I do think you're probably going to end up seeing Darmian finish the match over there on the left wing back side, because I just don't really see what other option you would have for a left wing back in that scenario. So most likely somebody's going to have to go 90 minutes, either DeMarco or Darmian. And I think we all know it's going to be Darmian moving over to the left wing back role, and then Dumfries coming on later on in the second half, which again, I'm just not a fan of, but I think that is probably what you're going to see Inzaghi do.
Jay, what are your thoughts of this redone Napoli team? Obviously, like I said, the impressive win against Juve, but they've kind of had Juve's number in recent years, especially at home. This is a different Napoli team when they have to travel. This needs to be 3 points in a bounce back spot, right? Especially heading into the international break.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't afford to go on a slide, even if we are 15, 16 points ahead. I don't care how good we are. I don't care how many points we are ahead. I don't care how much we achieve in Europe. I've always maintained from day one that this team lives with a terminal illness, which can, like herpes, lay dormant forever and then just come up when you least expect it. The bottle of Damocles hangs above this team's head at all times and may come down in an instant. And the only way we can keep it away is, by winning, essentially. So no slip ups, no bullshit. Just we're playing at home. As you've said, this Napoli team, despite the semi stabilization from their new manager Calzona, if that even is his name, they're still not a great team. And as long as we don't have like some mental capitulation following the elimination, we should win pretty easily. So I guess we have to go with our stronger side, fitness permitting. I wouldn't mind seeing Mkhitaryan, take a hike for this one and just start on the bench. He was quite underwhelming against Atletico, so maybe just start Fratesi.
Fratesi is rumored to start, by the way.
Oh, is he? That's good. I was really busy on the morning straight after the Champions
Busy
League
doing
match.
the calculation to see how many points we need to secure the Scudetto against Milan in April.
Yeah, that's right. So I was really busy, so like I didn't check in on like any social media. Thank God, following our elimination, I didn't really see any news for Napoli either. But so I've been kind of out of the loop for like 2-3 days. But so I don't know what the current state of the squad is and who, what the rumored lineup is and all that. But I guess we don't have much option. Play Lautaro, play thuram. Hopefully, one of them gets a goal. And yeah, as Sterling said, it'd be nice if Fratesi can start this one. Other than that, just it's the same old. Maybe a acerbi for the fry. I don't know.
That is also rumored to happen as well, by the way. Let me just go through this lineup real quick that's rumored from Sky Sports. So it's Pavard on the right, Acerbi in the center, Bastioni on the left. From the wing back, you have Darmian on the right, Fratesi on the right, Mazzala role, Çalhanoğlu, Barella, DeMarco, and then Thuram and Martinez up top.
Yeah, so pretty much full strength.
What about the goalkeeper?
Aldero.
We're gonna roll out Aldero.
Di Gregorio deserves Di Gennaro deserves to start.
Di Gennaro, yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Quick shout out to Sommer though. I thought he had a really good match against Atletico. Just want to put that out there.
No, he did. He's been solid throughout, and he kept us in it for sure. On this Napoli match, look, man, like I don't want to see I don't want to see Mkhitaryan. I don't want to see Pavard, and I don't want to see devrij. As long as those three are not playing, I'm fine. And for Napoli, I don't care if Osimhen's playing. I don't care if they bring back Hamsik and Higuain in their prime and they have Maradona playing. We need to smash these guys. I want to see some character, some personality from the team. I want to see like a 3-0 win or a 4-0 win. I want to see like an absolute thrashing. The players need to be pissed. They need to be focused. They need to be angry. I want Inzaghi to be completely ruthless. Like this needs to be a statement match. Like the team needs to have some pride here and go out there and just smash Napoli.
Yes.
And if they don't, if this is like some lethargic win, if this is some 1-0 Hakan penalty win, like that's not good enough in my opinion. I mean, you need to take it out on Napoli, what happened in Madrid. And anything less than that, I think, would be a disappointment. And just a quick shout out for U.S. sports followers, especially followers of the great Chicago Bears. Justin Fields, who's our quarterback, is in Milan. And I DM'd him hoping that he would go to the Inter match against Napoli. He didn't say anything, but hopefully he'll be there. And if he's there, I hope he sees us win.
I have no idea who that is. I'm just going to say that Osimhen has never scored against us anyway. So it's kind of, neither here nor there whether he plays against us, to be honest.
Okay. Jay,
So
can you think
Simeone's
of
gonna
like
do us twice in 1 week, huh?
Jay, can you think of like a really mediocre Italian striker like from the league who scores like 3 or 4 goals a season? Like, can you think of anyone off the top of your head who fits that description?
Scamacca?
Scamacca has a 16-goal season in him. Thank you very much.
Jesus.
Pinamonti.
It's Pinamonti, Destro.
Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that. Justin Fields is the Pinamonti of the NFL.
Okay.
Hey,
Wow.
that's QB1. Watch it. This is some Detroit Lions hatred right now.
That's about to be QB2. The only question I wanted to ask you guys before we do some predictions is, does anyone actually care about catching Juve's 102-point record? Like, is this an objective for any of you, or are you just kind of like, whatever, just win the Scudetto?
No, I could care less. I don't see why these records really matter to anybody. I just want a Scudetto. Let's just go ahead and wrap that up as soon as possible. Honestly, after we clinch the Scudetto, I don't even care if you play the Primavera. I don't care if you just play the backups.
I would rather
play
see
whoever you want.
Yeah, I would rather see more minutes from Buchanan, Aslani, not Clausen, but I would rather see more minutes from those guys than try to chase 102 points. I could care less. Let's lock it up and let's give some of these young guys like a lot of playing time. Let's bench Mkhitaryan for the rest of the year, let him rest and collect a paycheck. And I don't want to see Sanchez or Arnautovic again. So, promote somebody from the Primavera to play with Lautaro and thuram if you need to.
We really need to get Klaassen in goal before he leaves. I was hoping he'd make that penalty just so we could, enjoy the satisfaction of the net bulging after a Klaassen well-taken goal.
Seeing the net ripple like his gorgeous flowing locks in the wind.
All right, let's get some predictions before we move on to Jay's hot betting tips. So Jay,
let me start first because my betting tip of the week is actually my prediction.
Let me guess. 0-1 Napoli win.
That is actually correct. I'm betting my hot tip for the week is Napoli 1, Inter 0. I think before the ship stabilizes, we're going to have one more, rocky wave to kind of really let the salt of the elimination kind of soak in. So, unfortunately, I think we're due one more sucker punch before things go back to normal after the international break.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 1-1. Goals from Kvaratskhelia and Fratesi is going to be my prediction. I do think that there's going to be some malaise after the Atletico game. And in all seriousness, I'm actually glad that there's a international break coming up. It's like I think the first time I've ever been happy for an international break. But because I think that we're going to need a little bit of a mental reset before we finish out this season. And look, I think that the Scudetto is pretty much done at this point. I don't think that even a Pazza Inter moment could blow it at this point, but there's still that little bit in the back of my mind now that's like, hey, let's just make sure. Let's not start getting cute with it and all of a sudden end up with a situation where, you've got somebody who's 5 points behind you or something like that with, 6 games left or something crazy. So let's just let's just see it out. But yeah, for this match, my prediction is going to be a 1-1 draw.
Like I said, I want to see us go out there, smash them. I want a character-defining win. I want us to go out there and really stamp our authority and be pissed about what happened and learn from it. And with all that said, I'm predicting a 1-0 win, Hakan penalty, because I just don't think that we have it in us yet to get sufficiently mad and to assert our authority in any sufficient way. And therefore, I still predict a win. I mean, we're at home. Napoli's pretty bad. So I think we should win. But yeah, it's not going to be the statement win that I am so desperately thirsty for, unfortunately.
All right. So we have to score at least a goal, right? I mean, we have a track record. We do not get held to clean sheets. So you can feel confident there. I'm just going to keep harping on I have absolutely no respect for this iteration of Napoli. So give me a 3-1 Politano scoring for Napoli. Just get the former player curse in there. And then for us, Lautaro goes scoreless as he has a mini crisis. We're led by thuram for Tazy and a Pavar redemption goal.
Speaking of records of us, scoring in every Serie match, was that Depay goal the first time we've conceded after the 75th minute?
Yes, it was.
So it looks like it's a time for records to be broken.
It's still a valid seriea statistic. That's what we're going to hang our hat on now.
Fair enough.
And you don't want to add any Jay's hot betting tips beyond the capitulation to Napoli?
There's an international break, so it's honestly hard to kind of pick anything. I guess there's the Atalanta-Fiorentina game before us. I kept the betting tip specific to us just because, like I said, there's not many games going on. Especially before. There's not much time between when this episode will be released to the games being played, and I haven't really done much research for the other teams. But you got Roma, Sassuolo, Atalanta, Fiorentina, and Jay's hot betting tips. Look, these are for members only. These are done with a laborious amount of research and scientific calculations. So I don't do them on the fly, but I will this time. I say Atalanta beat Fiorentina 2-1. And the same scoreline for Roma, Sassuolo, 2-1 for both games.
And for Jay, whoever Milan's playing, Milan's going to win 3-0. So,
they're playing Verona, so yeah, but yes, I would have said that even if they were not playing Verona.
Well, I'd be happy to participate in those if I did not lose all my money last week. If I may offer a non-Jay's hot betting tips, if you want to go an exacto Champions League final, what about Real over Atletico V3? Just saying, you look at the draw, Atletico's side of the bracket, super easy. Just throwing that out there.
I think City's going to knock Real out. This Madrid team this year is a little shaky, and they've dealt with some big injuries, especially in the back line. I think that City will have enough to get through.
The only thing I want is for Arsenal not to win the Champions League.
Arsenal
I don't care
over Man City for Jay. Arsenal over Man City.
It's the only thing. Now that we're out of the Champions League, I don't care who wins it as long as it's not Arsenal.
Well, what would hurt you more, though? Arsenal winning the Champions League or Atletico winning the Champions League when we were this close to knocking Atletico out?
Arsenal for sure. Definitely I would prefer it if Atletico won. Yeah.
If anything, Atletico winning would make it look a little better for us in the grand scheme of things. Like,
they knocked out, they knocked out the Italian champions en route to their glorious Champions League victory.
Right.
And it's third time lucky for Simeone, who lost twice before. So yeah, it would make it actually a little bit better. So. definitely, I would prefer Atleti.
Do you think like 2010 Chelsea fans reflect back like, I can't believe we lost to this fucking version of Inter? Or do they reflect back on, we lost to the Italian champions, it's okay?
Yeah, probably fans justify all sorts of weird things to themselves.
I'm sure all 5 Chelsea fans still remember that.
Hey, back in 2010, there were at least 15, and then they lost the bandwagon when the Russian money dried up. Anyway, all right. Well, thanks for listening to us, emotionally work ourselves through the Atletico loss. Hopefully, this therapy session worked for you as well. We'll catch you all next week on international break, where we got some fun things planned for non-match breakdowns. So looking forward to seeing you all then.
Thanks, guys. Catch
Thanks
you
for
later.
having me, guys.